Having gone through service design and service delivery, moments of truth, and understanding of what is a service all about and what's the service industry, uh, it's very important to understand the concept of service quality. And linked to the concept of service quality are the aspects of service failure and recovery. Now, theoretically, one would always say that the service system should be so designed that you don't have any service failure and therefore there should not be any need for recovery. But service conceptually, being intangible in nature, uh, the challenge is always there of the inability to express completely and comprehensively the quality of service and therefore the difference. In the service industry, as we all understand, there is a company which is offering the service, and they have made a promise, and there is the customer who's buying the service, and they have a certain expectation. This very often becomes a big gap. Consider a simple example of healthcare insurance, health insurance. Now, the company says that in case of claims, within 7 days, the disbursement would happen. When actually the claim happens, when the actual thing happens, and say if a customer sees that it's been 30 days and the claims have still not been processed, uh, he goes to the company and he tries to understand what's the issue, and the company says that documents are not complete. Now, here is an issue of procedure versus the service quality. Telecommunication companies also spend a lot of money on this service quality. There are call centers which constantly assess the service quality, and they try to meet the standards and try to recover. So whenever there is a gap between procedure, service quality, the person interacting, the understanding of the person related to uh, the contract, all of these are very many issues. Now, whenever there is a gap and there is a failure of service, if the gap is less, obviously the promise and expectation meet very quickly, and therefore it's a simple case. But if the gap is more, we often have a case of service failure. Now, the service failure can be because the customer never understood the expectations, the promise well. Customer expectations can be too high, or there is a genuine goof up on part of the company providing the service. Either ways, there's a service failure, and service failure has a very negative impact on the customer, and there's a very negative word of mouth. Consider an airline. Uh, say you are flying from New York to um, Mumbai, and in between there's a transit in Frankfurt. Now, the airline company says that in Frankfurt there is an overbooking of the passenger seats, and therefore they have to offload a few passengers. They can't do anything about it, and unfortunately you have got offloaded. Now, due to the systems saying that whatever reason, and then you also have a very important meeting in Mumbai the next day. Now what do you do? So these are the failures which are genuine goof ups and leading to service failure. Whenever there is a service failure, an organization has to look for first is acknowledge the failure, and they have to make good. understand that for the organization to make good, it's easy for them to give concessions quickly and make it good, as in free 2 nights in a city of choice, in Germany, in this above case, or fully paid with accommodation and tourists, etc., tourism, etc. Else, the cost of service failure can be very high. What if a person, in case of a service failure, decides to sue the company, decides for a lawsuit, goes for a lawsuit? Now, if he goes for a lawsuit, the cost to the company can be very high. Therefore, in case of service failure, it's very important to quickly recover, do the service recovery, and leave a positive feeling with that particular customer. In my case, once I had ordered a dish in a 5-star hotel, and what came was, I was supposed to get a vegetarian dish, and what came was a non-veg dish. And accidentally, someone who was fasting at that time, or who was not having vegetarian food or non-veg food at that time, had eaten this, and he was absolutely furious. So the hotel then gave them complimentary 2 nights, and furiously, obviously, they totally apologized for the mistake. They gave complimentary 2 nights and settled this quickly. This kind of service recovery, for service recovery to happen quickly, what's important is that the person who's delivering the service should be empowered to take all kinds of decisions. And if this empowerment is not there, service recovery goes into a very bad experience for the customer as well as for the company. So understand one thing, that when you are having service quality, you must be very clear on what is the promise that you are making, and so that the customer doesn't have a false expectation. Make it have a lot of communication with the customer at every step. And once you have got all of this established in and rightly done, in case there is a goof up, genuinely apologize and set this right. In service companies, since it's people and process dependent, and there's technology systems at the back end and all, very often failures happen. And it's important for an organization to empower their people so that the service recovery can happen quickly.